What if Cars 3 were completely different? That's actually true. McQueen was supposed to win the final race. In the original version of Cars 3, the final race wasn't supposed to be Cruise's big moment. It was meant to be McQueen's last great comeback. And the way it played out would have changed how fans remember the entire trilogy. It began with Sterling, the slick businessman behind the racing center. After watching McQueen struggle to keep up with Cruise during training, Sterling made a cold decision. Without even asking, he pulled McQueen out of the race. Just like that, the hero of the story was pushed aside. As McQueen stepped out of the garage, confused and disappointed, he was met with celebration. His friends welcomed him like a champion, unaware that he wouldn't be racing. But then came a quiet shock. Cruise was already out on the track, wearing McQueen's lightning bolt and his number 95. She apologized, explaining she never meant to take his place. But McQueen didn't blame her. Instead, he told her to go out there and race. And then came one of the most powerful moments in the trilogy. When the crowd realized McQueen had been forced out, a wave of protest swept through the stadium. One by one, fans began to chant his name, "McQueen! McQueen!" It wasn't just a cheer. It was a heartfelt roar for someone who had given everything to racing. That scene alone was enough to give anyone goosebumps. But just as it seemed like McQueen's story had ended, Tex Dinoco pulled up beside him. Rising offer, a new number, a new paint job, and a fresh start. Number 51, blue and gold. A tribute to Doc Hudson, and a signal that McQueen still belonged on the track. McQueen accepted. He suited up, and this time, he won. Many fans who saw the scene said it hit harder than the version in the final cut. It honored McQueen's legacy and gave him a proper send-off. But the creators felt something was missing. McQueen didn't choose to pass the torch. He had no say. And Cruise didn't earn her shot because of McQueen's belief in her. It was Sterling who pushed her forward. That's why the scene was scrapped. But for those of you who didn't see it, here's an explanation of how that happened. The alternate endings and McQueen's big flip. First things first, McQueen was meant to beat Jackson Storm and finish his story with one last win. This version even included a dramatic mid-air flip, just like Cruise did in the final movie. But this time, it was McQueen flying over Storm. There were actually several versions of this ending. In one, McQueen races alongside both Storm and Cruise, holding his own until the very end. In another, he pulls off the flip and wins in classic underdog fashion. These scenes were never fully released, but short clips exist. One fan, William A., even recreated the full sequence so others could see what it might have looked like. At first glance, this ending feels satisfying. McQueen gets a big win, and it mirrors his early days as a racer. For many fans, it brought back memories of what made them love the character in the first place. But the creators saw things differently. As exciting as it looked, the win felt a little too familiar. It didn't reflect how the movie began, with McQueen struggling to keep up, facing retirement, and learning to mentor someone new. The flip was flashy, but it didn't carry the same meaning. So they rewrote it. They gave Cruise the final lap instead, letting her shine while McQueen stepped into a new role. And even though many fans prefer the alternate ending, it's clear the final version told a deeper story. This whole story makes one thing clear. Sterling was the real puppet master. In the alternate version of Cars 3, Sterling wasn't just a businessman, he was the one pulling all the strings. Unlike in the final cut, where McQueen mentors Cruise, Sterling had been secretly observing both McQueen and Cruise the entire time. He knew that Cruise had the skills to race, and that McQueen, despite his experience, was starting to fall behind. Sterling's decision to pull McQueen out of the race wasn't a choice McQueen made himself. Instead, it was Sterling's call, based on Cruise's impressive stats. McQueen, in this version, wasn't the one to realize Cruise had the potential. It was Sterling who saw her talent and decided she should take McQueen's place. This completely changes the mentor-mentee relationship between McQueen and Cruise. In the final version, McQueen chooses to let Cruise race, passing the torch willingly. But in this deleted version, McQueen's agency is taken away, and Cruise's moment feels more like a decision made by someone else. It shifts the focus from McQueen's growth as a mentor to Sterling's control over the situation, making McQueen's role in Cruise's rise feel less personal and more like a forced move. This brings us to the next part. Cruise was originally a total pro from the start. In an early version of Cars 3, Cruise was presented as a total pro right from the beginning. A key scene called Boogie Woogie showed her dominating McQueen on the beach, which is a big contrast to the final cut, where she struggles with the Tateris. In this deleted scene, Cruz was already an expert racer, effortlessly pulling ahead of McQueen in every race. McQueen, on the other hand, looked weak and out of his depth. This wasn't just a small setback. It was clear from the start that he couldn't keep up with Cruz's speed and skill. At one point, Cruz even let McQueen win a race just so he wouldn't feel defeated. Without her letting him win, McQueen would have been completely outclassed. This scene would have painted McQueen in a weak light early on, showing the audience that his time in the spotlight might be over. While it made Cruz look strong, it didn't do much for McQueen's arc. The creators probably cut it because it shifted the tone too early in the film. It didn't fit the story of McQueen fighting back, and it overshadowed his growth as a mentor. The final version made sure to balance their rivalry and mentorship, letting McQueen shine in his own way before passing the torch. As for Cruz, her backstory was also a bit different. Cruz's mentor was her grandfather, not McQueen. In an early version of Cars 3, Cruz's true mentor was her grandfather, not McQueen. A deleted scene called Jars of Dirt reveals that Cruz was inspired by him, a passionate racing fan. This scene added depth to Cruz's character, showing that her connection to racing ran deep in her family. Her grandfather had a collection of dirt from legendary racetracks, much like how McQueen honors Doc Hudson's legacy. In the final version, it's Sterling who collects the dirt. But in this earlier draft, it was Cruz's way of honoring her grandfather's influence on her. This subtle shift in Cruz's backstory gave her a richer, more personal connection to racing, making her character feel more rooted in tradition and legacy. However, this change also shifted the focus away from McQueen. With Cruz's grandfather playing such a central role in her journey, McQueen's mentorship role was less significant. This change would have altered how we viewed their relationship, making Cruz's growth more about honoring her past rather than learning from McQueen. While it added layers to Cruz, it also shifted the spotlight away from McQueen's role as a mentor, changing the emotional tone of their relationship. And it was all because Cruz was a McQueen superfan in the deleted scene, The Bolt. In the deleted scene, The Bolt, we see Cruz as a huge McQueen fan. She brings dirt from Thomasville, where McQueen raced, and draws his iconic lightning bolt on the ground. This moment shows how Cruz dreamed of becoming a race car driver herself, deeply inspired by McQueen's legacy. It was a nod to how much she looked up to him, adding a personal touch to her journey. However, this scene was cut from the final movie because it shifted the focus too much onto Cruz early on. The creators wanted to ensure the story didn't overshadow McQueen's arc. By reducing Cruz's spotlight, they gave more space for McQueen's character to shine, especially in the final scenes where everything changes for him. While it makes sense why this scene was removed, many fans wished it had stayed. It would have shown Cruz's dedication to McQueen and her dream, making her character even more relatable. Plus, it would have added another layer to her growth as she transitions from a fan to a fellow racer. It's a scene that could have strengthened the bond between McQueen and Cruz, making their mentor-mentee relationship feel even more meaningful. Then came the scene that changed her arc. The log nuts scene changed Cruz's arc. In the deleted scene Log Nuts, Cruz opens up after their intense battle at Thunder Hollow. She confesses that no one ever gave her a chance, which reflects her feelings of self-doubt. This scene ties into the alternate ending, where Sterling decides to give Cruz her shot. However, in the final version, Cruz's arc changes. Instead of Sterling choosing her, it's McQueen who helps Cruz find her confidence. In the final cut, Cruz struggles with self-belief, and it's McQueen who steps in to guide her, helping her realize her true potential. This shift made their mentor-mentee relationship much stronger and more personal. It allowed McQueen to truly show his growth, not just as a racer, but as someone who could pass on the lessons he learned. The final version adds depth to their dynamic, turning their relationship into one of trust and mutual respect. McQueen's influence goes beyond just teaching Cruz how to race. It's about encouraging her to believe in herself. This change made their bond even more meaningful, highlighting McQueen's role as a mentor and showing that his journey wasn't just about racing, but about helping others succeed too. Which version was better? When you look at the two versions of Cars 3, there's a clear choice between focusing on Cruz or McQueen. The original, Cruz-focused version gave her a big moment to shine and set her up as the true winner, passing the torch to the next generation. It was powerful and emotional, especially for those who saw her as the underdog finally getting her chance. but it also shifted McQueen's role, making him seem more like a sidelined character rather than a mentor. On the other hand, the final version put McQueen front and center. His eventual acceptance of aging and helping Cruz showed his growth, adding depth to his character. McQueen's win was emotional and thrilling, but it lacked the same level of change or growth we might have wanted for him. It felt more like a victory lap than a true comeback. Both endings have their merits. Cruz's win was emotional, symbolizing the future of racing, while McQueen's victory focused more on the journey of a legend who was learning to step aside. The Cruz version had more emotional weight, but the McQueen-focused ending felt more balanced for the story and for McQueen's arc. What do you think? Would you have preferred to see McQueen's comeback or Cruz taking the spotlight as the new star of racing? Both versions bring something special to the table, but it's up to you to decide which one hits hardest.